time to work on getting this transmission and belt housing off and getting the clutch installed. I'm not expecting it to go smooth, but I hope it does. How's it going, everyone? It's Mike with this old hot rod. Finally a nice day. I got the doors open on the garage, sun shining, and I need to remove the motor and transmission out of the frame rails. And the reason I need to do that is because I need to install this little adapter. This step down machine finish here will go into the back of the crank on the 371, and then this new pilot bushing gets pressed into here, and then the input shaft, the center of the input shaft on the front of the transmission mounts inside this pilot bushing. So that will keep everything on the center line from the crank all the way through the transmission. So what I need to do is I need to get this installed in between the transmission and the crank, and then I can install the flywheel and the clutch assembly off the 371. After that's all said and done, I pull everything apart. I'll send that flywheel out, get it resurfaced, and then, you know, along with everything else. So what I need to do is get the motor out, everything together, and put it back in. It's not going to be that easy because nothing's ever that easy, but I at least need to start the process so I can get this thing together and get it off to the exhaust shop. That's the last thing I need to do before I get it off to the exhaust shop. I was hoping to have it this past weekend done, but just with work and life in general, it just didn't allow it. So come on in, honey. Say hi to all your fans. Hi, fans! Hi, fans! Oh, here's Izzy.
Michael's working on the car.
Yeah.
He's doing a good job. Do you need to speak the memo?
No, you can push. Kind of having an odd off day, so I'm going to try to reclaim my day by getting something hopefully accomplished. Alright, those. I can lift this intake off. These 4 bolts up here, and then the 2 bolts down on the bottom off. I just had it snugged in. That's good. Get the motor mounts finished welded now once I get the motor out, so I have full access to them, so that'll be good. Check that off the list. It's nice to open up the doors and get some fresh air in the garage, you know, get some actual sunlight. You have to be smarter than the fish, Dylan. That is a life lesson you have to learn.
I'm going to put some food inside of it so they go inside of it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw a little bit of food around it.
All this to catch a goldfish. What are you going to do with it once you catch it? Eat it? Cook it?
Have it as a pet.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you.
The boy's trying to catch a goldfish in the backyard. Coming up with all different ways and different tricks and things to do to try to catch a goldfish. And he's got to be smarter than a goldfish, he said. Yep, you do. That you do. Alright. I think it's all unbolted. Now I got to get a chain. I had a chain up here and I don't know what I did with it. Oh, here it is. I got That's my dog breathing. If you can hear that, that's my dog. That's Wesley. Now, bud. Just doing your thing, huh, bro? Okay, bud? Hey, bud. Warm out there today, huh? The sun's shining. Wesley doesn't do very good in the heat, so kind of huffs and puffs, you know. Little French bulldog, they kind of struggle sometimes with the heat. Oh, you know what? I didn't use this. I needed to use this. Get the transmission off. Alright, that was not fun. That pilot bushing needs to come out. This here is a pilot bushing removal tool. And again, my buddy Pete gave me this. It's a slide. It's like a slide hammer. These little forks go in and hook inside the pilot bushing. And then you hammer it out. Just like that. 2 little taps and it's out. But it looks a heck of a lot different than the one he made me. So I'm a little bit concerned. Alright, so the pilot bushing fits on the input shaft. That doesn't fit. The other day I posted up a picture on Facebook and Instagram and said I was kind of having a bad day, and basically that's what was going on. I was kind of having a bad day. That was essentially the picture that I posted right here. It looked a lot worse than it actually was. I had meant to put the motor on the floor like that, and the reason I had to do that was I needed to get the transmission off of the back of the motor, so I can get the clutch assembly and everything put in place, so that I can get it put back in the car and I can get the linkage all set. I was trying to get this adapter in, but unfortunately the adapter didn't quite fit into the back of the crank to replace the pilot bushing, which is here. So I have to have this adapter machined down to the thickness of the pilot bushing, which is a simple fix. It's just not something I can do here because I don't have a lathe. So it kind of stopped me what I was trying to accomplish that day. It's 2 days later. I'm back in the garage, and what I'm going to do is I still have the adapter out, but what I'm thinking is I can still get the transmission in with the throw-up bearing and the clutch fork. I can still get that all in place and then put the motor back in the car so I can get this clutch linkage figured out. So what I need to do is, I need to get my throw-up bearing somewhere. Oh, it's right here. So I think I need to get that cleaned off. Get some sandpaper and get that collar cleaned off so I can get this throw-up bearing on it. I need to get this cleaned up real quick. Transmission's so heavy. Whoop, I get some oil leaking. Alright, well I just took my Contour SCT and I actually just cleaned off the shank on the front of this transmission. It worked perfectly. Got some gear oil that just leaked out of the transmission. Give it a quick coat. And this should go on there. Perfect. So the clutch disc that I have isn't the right disc for this transmission, so I have to order one. This is the disc that's off of the transmission originally from the back of the Oldsmobile. But it fits over this. It's not perfect, but it at least fits. So I'm going to use that just for alignment purposes, because I need to have a disc in there in order to get the clutch fingers exactly where they're going to be. Yes, hi, I love you, but you run away and I don't know where you go. You got to go lay down with Wesley. Lay in the sun. Alright, so next I have to do is I want to get this bell housing on. This starter plate. Now what I want to do is get the starter mounted. Let me do that. So I realized there's a few pieces that I didn't have. There's a spring that holds the clutch fork on the pivot, and then also there are a few other springs that I'm going to need, and then an adjustable push rod for the linkage. So I just ordered those last night or early this morning. So those won't be in for a few days. So what I need to do is, I think I'm going to leave the motor out of the car for now. And I'm going to get to work on cleaning the inside of the frame rails, because I haven't had a chance to do those yet because the motor was in the frame. Kind of jumping around a little bit because, again, I don't really know all the bits and pieces. You know, when you're adapting, a transmission from one car with an adapter and things that you have to modify in order to fit an engine from another car, things just obviously don't always go as planned, and sometimes, even though you think you have everything you need, you realize once you're in the middle of it that you just don't have the things that you thought you needed. That's kind of the situation I'm in right now. So there's some real heavy welds in a couple areas on the car where the boxing plate was butted together. Right here underneath where the cowl is. So I'm going to get my grinder out and kind of grind that down a little bit just to clean it up. Kind of grind down some other areas on top where the boxing plate kind of overlapped a little. and then I'll get the Contour SCT out and I'll get that cleaned up. I'm gonna pop these headlight stanchions off so I can get the top of the frame cleaned up. I'll pull off these shock mounts. I'll leave the steering on for now. So I need to get this ground down. It's just a huge chunk of weld there. Just to pretty it up a little bit. I know that's how things were done back in the day, and I'm totally fine with it. Like I am a lot of the work that was done on the car, but I like to clean that up just a little bit and then get the rust off the frame rail. What I also need to do is when I built this bump out, I built it the night before my buddy Joe came over and we dropped the steering arms and the steering hoop to set up the steering. So I needed to get the steering box on in order to do that. But what I did was I got this top, I ended up cutting the frame. This is part of the original frame here. I bent it out to accept the steering column where it needed to fit. That's how it needed to fit. Then I added this wedge here and I added this flat piece of steel here. I never added a piece on the bottom, so you can see I can stick my finger right up through it. I now have access to this. I can get this cleaned up with a flap disc and I can get this bottom piece mounted in, get that welded, and then that'll be done. And I can check that off my list as well. Yeah, something like that. Alright everyone, well what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it up for tonight. I just went out for dinner with my son. We took the 30 Coupe out. And it's a lot later than I had planned on getting back. So what I did was I got the frame rails all cleaned up as you saw. I got my little filler piece tacked in place for the steering box. To kind of the boxing plate to fill in where I cut it out originally. So tomorrow morning I'm going to get up early. I'm going to be out here. I'm going to get the motor mounts welded and all that stuff, and get everything pulled out of the car, all the sheet metal pulled out of the car, get everything put outside. You guys will see it. And then I'm just going to start getting some sealer put on some of this metal. Looking forward to it. I'm going to pull the transmission cross member apart so I can get all the surfaces of that. I'll get it to a point where I'll get the chassis in sealer and all the sheet metal in the back of the car in sealer. And then, who knows, maybe even paint. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll get this thing, maybe I'll drop the front axle tomorrow and get the chassis sprayed in paint. I think I'm gonna paint match the frame to the body. So, give it that late 50s show car look, but still have some 60s vibe to it. I think it ought to be pretty cool. So I'll see you guys soon. Thanks a lot for watching. I appreciate it. Thank you for all the support. Sorry the videos have been somewhat lackluster lately. Work's been crazy. It's springtime. Everything's kind of going nuts right now with work. I'm hoping things are going to really start moving forwards real soon. I had hoped to have this car to the exhaust shop weeks and weeks ago, but that's just the way it is building these old hot rods, you know. Sometimes they just don't go as planned. Most times they don't go as planned. So, thanks again, everybody. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.